Hey, GLP-1 plus size community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
"20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise. That's the power of GLP-1s through Ro. Ro helps find the medication that's right for you, based on cost, availability, and your weight loss goals. Losing weight with GLP-1s is possible through Ro.
Today, it's going to be a little bit different because our guest couldn't make it. So we actually have...
well, it's just me and Kim talking.
No, that would be awful. That's like two squirrels. Squirrel, dogs, or I don't know, dogs that are seeing squirrels.
Yeah, one wheel or one without. That's those gerbils. That's gerbils.
Yeah. Cat and I have had the ADHD. We've been friends a long time though. Anyway, I digress. Welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast. We're going to invite in Dr. Melissa Young, who is also known on TikTok as Mad Endo. And we are going to wrap with an endo, and we're going to talk all about our favorite subject, which we are blocked on many other accounts. Lisa's girl is from talking about. It sucks. Welcome. Hello. How are you, Dr. Young?
I'm fine. Thank you. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
We're so glad to have you back.
So nice on you. It's just so...
Yes. What is all that blue? Why are you wearing all that blue? And why?
It's Diabetes Awareness Month. And in November, we wear blue.
In November, we
wear blue for diabetes awareness.
For diabetes. Yeah, they got the blue hair, got the blue nails.
And a blue shirt. She looks fantastic. You look like... It's awesome. I'm telling you. I was like, we probably should know about those things. When you're moving really, really fast, which is what we do on Plus Sides, right? You forget these things. And when you're like more planned and organized and you have like staff, like funding, you can be like, oh, this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And let's do all these things. Because I'm in marketing. That's what I do when I have a job. But no, not here. We're flying by the seat of our pants always. That's okay though.
I did get the reminders before in November from the various medical societies.
I should probably sign up for that. Considering this podcast is about obesity and diabetes, it's probably smart.
Well, makes me want to change my purple hair to blue. I have been thinking about that
for the next 3 weeks.
What? I mean, it's a wig. You just gotta get yourself a wig, and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yes, these are just clip in. So these are.
I love that.
So some December they will be gone. My daughter does not approve. My 22-year-old daughter does not approve of my blue hair.
Madness.
It would be so appropriate for December. Winter.
Yeah.
Holidays. Hanukkah. Yeah.
All right. Well, we should probably talk because we're friends. Hey, Dr. Young. So if you don't know Dr. Young, she is also known as Mendo on TikTok, and I would love for her to tell us a little bit about who she is, how she does as well, and how she helps people, because that's our usual intro question.
So I'm an endocrinologist. I'm solo private practice, and I see a variety of people with different endocrine disorders. I think just because of the how common it is. Type 2 diabetes by the most common thing that I see, but I also see people with other endocrine disorders like thyroid disease, renal disease, obesity, PCOS, low testosterone, and so
on. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about because you mentioned PCOS. I feel like it seems to what we've learned from the doctors on the show. It's like a very, I guess, missed diagnosis, or it's hard to diagnose, or it goes a long time to get diagnosed, or it's kind of overlooked. Why do you think that is?
I think part of it is when most of the time women start exhibiting symptoms of PCOS when they're in their teens. And very often, because the symptoms generally are infrequent or absent periods, some signs of excess androgen, so male hormones, so the excess hair growth and scalp hair loss and so on. And I think when someone is just starting to get their periods in their teens, they don't realize that some of what they're experiencing is no longer within the realms of normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now this is going to be a political thing. Okay. I think that women's health in general is not well represented in the research fields.
Yeah.
I mean, half of the population is female, right?
Yeah.
And yet, which means half of the population will at some point go through menopause. And yet menopause is such an poorly understood disease. Okay?
Right.
And 10% of women develop PCOS. That's a lot of people. That's 5% of the whole population, right? So there's 300 or so million Americans. Let's say half. So if you're looking at 150 million women, 10% of that, oh God, I'm doing math. 15 million, right?
You're a doctor. You're supposed to do the math.
Doctors do have to do the math.
15 million women potentially have PCOS in this country. And yet we don't have a single FDA-approved pharmacological treatment because
it's crazy.
Nobody bothers.
Yeah, no,
it's so I think nobody thinks about it until a woman is an adult.
Yeah.
And they're contemplating, very often it's because they're contemplating conception or things like that. I think that's when they start, looking for care, but early on they don't. I know a lot of women just never done. If you don't ask, no one's going to look for you.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say, like, personally, as someone that struggled with obesity for such a long time, I mean, since I was a child, especially into my teens, and with my periods being off, they always would just say to my mom, she just needs to lose weight. She just needs to lose weight. She'll be fine. She just needs to lose weight. But I had that spare tire down below. I mean, when I was like 11, like 10 or 11, that and I've always had that. But I was always blown off. I had miscarriages and all these different things, and still you just need to lose weight. No one ran any tests. Nobody did anything. And I think that happens a lot, and it bothers me, because if I had been able to treat something that's an endocrine disorder when I had my son, then maybe I would have maybe I wouldn't have miscarriages, or maybe I would have been able to plan my family better, because I did want more children, and I never could get pregnant again, and it's sad.
Now, I will say that up until, well, like I said, there's no FDA-approved medication, right? And so I think part of the issue too is there's probably a reluctance to even try to diagnose it, and much as it's difficult to just say you just need to lose weight. For a long time, that's really all we had. Yeah. So their defense, and not to say that it was okay, but in their defense, they probably had nothing else to say to you then except that. Right.
Well, this was a practice that was taught, right?
It was pretty new, right? Because Victoza was 2012, and I had my son in 2012.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And data was 2006, I think. But even though there was some data, there's not a lot of data. in using these drugs specifically for PCOS. And even if there was data without it being FDA approved, the chances of getting insurance to cover it is really low. They don't care about metformin because metformin's cheap and they'll cover metformin because they don't even ask what it's for.
Right.
But when you try to get an expensive medication, they want to know what it's for. And if you don't have an FDA approved indication, the insurance company, it's easier for them to say no.
Yeah.
Right? If you have an indication, so for type 2 diabetes, it's easy to get Ozempic and Mounjaro covered because that's what's on the label. That's what it's for.
Right.
When we try to use it for reasons other than that, pretty much there is a blanket no.
Yeah, I know, like when Mounjaro first came out, I felt like off-label was something that happened more often, and even with Ozempic, and then they started cracking down. At least that's what we saw on our end in the community, right?
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, like, when it comes to metformin, what because obviously since there is nothing approved for PCOS, right? Why did they start using that to try to treat PCOS?
Because metformin decreases insulin resistance. And so PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is an unfortunate name because you don't have to prove that they have cysts on their ovaries, right? It's mostly a clinical diagnosis. You're proving that someone has these follicular cysts on their ovaries is kind of a bonus, but it's not necessarily a diagnosis. But PCOS is in the spectrum of insulin resistance disorders. We often think of insulin just lowering blood sugar, but we know that there's other things that it does in the body. So when your body does not use insulin efficiently, your body needs to make extra insulin. And that extra insulin causes the ovaries to make more androgens, more testosterone than it has to, which then tells the pituitary that, well, it doesn't need to send a signal to the ovaries. And with the lack of that signal, then you don't ovulate normally. And so so all of that leads to the different symptoms that people with PCOS have. It leads to the absent or infrequent periods, the signs of increased testosterone, and the other markers of hyperinsulinism, of insulin resistance.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I mean, you know what's crazy? It's like even on the medicine, I still have these hairs. They're just so random, and it's like out my chin, and because I can't see as good as I used to, now I'll just be like in the sun, and it'll be like that long. Like, son of a! I have like a tweezer in my car. This is what happens. I overshare.
I have a gray one now.
Mine are usually black, and like I'll just yank it out, and I'm like, here we go. People see me like that's the best place to see it in the sunlight.
Yeah, and it starts to curl. If it's like there's one down here that starts to curl because my hair is naturally curly. So if I let it go.
Hashtag we're tired.
There's not much that works well for the hair growth, unfortunately. I mean, we'll use sometimes the birth control pills are all contraceptives because it raises your estrogen, and so that balance between estrogen and testosterone changes. And so sometimes that helps some with the hair growth, and sometimes we'll use spironolactone, which technically is a blood pressure pill, but it attaches to the testosterone receptors on the cells and keeps testosterone from acting there. So sometimes we'll use that for the hair growth, but to be honest, they don't work great.
Basically, it's tweezers in the sunlight. That is the way through the hair.
Tweezers, wax.
Tweezers. Sorry, Kat, go ahead.
You're fine. So I can never ask this question enough. I mean, we're just touching on it too. Touching on it. Oh my gosh, we are really just not focused this evening. Okay, so
we've been recording too much. I'm sorry that I did that to us.
It's okay. I'm staying focused now. Darn it. All right. So we can never stop talking about this. And so I want to touch on it like every episode is, what is insulin resistance? Why does it make us so hungry? And is there a natural way to manage it?
Yeah. So like I said, insulin resistance is when the cells of the body don't use insulin efficiently. And so a lot of different tissues are affected by that. So when you make too much insulin, like I said, it alters the physiology in the ovaries. It also alters carbohydrate metabolism in the liver, but it also works on the brain. If you don't have enough insulin in the brain, because insulin tells your brain you're not hungry. But if your brain doesn't know the insulin is there, then it thinks you're still hungry, right? So people who don't have insulin resistance, when they eat, their body makes more insulin. And that is a signal to the brain, okay, you're done now. You don't have to eat anymore. But people who have insulin resistance don't get that signal in their brain. And so that's why they're still hungry. As far as managing it naturally, so weight loss does decrease insulin resistance because it again changes that physiology of the fat cells and feedback to the pancreas. And so very often a low calorie, low carbohydrate, high protein diet is helpful. It is difficult to sustain, however.
Agreed.
So, I mean, there are some people who do wonderfully, but unfortunately, they are the minority of people because of that lack of signal to the brain.
Yeah.
I think it is easier to get the blood sugars normal than it is to make the brain normal.
Yeah, totally.
You know, speaking of hunger, this is just something that pops in my head. It may not be directly related to insulin resistance, but I know a lot of people experience this. I do as well. Getting overtired means all I want is junk and sweets. Especially like say late into the evening. Let's say like after 10 o'clock for some reason, all of a sudden I'm ravenous. Is there an endocrinological explanation for that? Or is it just go to bed? Just go to bed. Well, you should just go to bed, right?
Well, yeah. We do need so proper sleep and rest and stress management is an important part of the whole health maintenance thing. But we also get this dopamine surge. We get these happy chemicals in our brain when we eat, and when we're tired, we want that dopamine surge. We need those chemicals in our brain for us to do the things we need to do. And so even when we're not truly hungry, the act of eating still makes us feel more energetic because you got the happy things going on in your head.
I do like the happy things. Yeah, I do think it's very bizarre that since I've been on these medicines, and I still eat everything in moderation. I got to tell you though, for the most part, what I crave is meat and vegetables, which blows my mind. Blows my mind. Well, I mean, I still have things. I still do. It's just if I have it, I just only eat a little, which I never do before until I was balanced, you know. And but like honestly, one of my favorite things is like chicken and like rotisserie chicken and green beans, or salmon and like Brussels sprouts. Like I'd rather have that than anything, you know. And but I still, if I want a McDonald's cheeseburger, I'll just have one. It'll just be a small one. You know what I'm saying? But before, it was like I would have to have that and nuggets and fries and a drink and all these different things, you know, and it's now just more balanced. And I've been on these for over 2 years now, you know? So I'm wondering, like, I feel like that's what normal people must be like for them. I don't know. Is it?
So there are some people who are lucky enough to just eat for sustenance, right? I mean, they eat. My mom's like that. My mom just eats to survive.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper. With results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster. Confidence higher. Price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
And she does not understand, because as hard as it is, my husband and I are both foodies. We love food. We love good food. We like to eat out. You know, we're careful about what we do, sometimes more than others. But my mom does not comprehend this. To her, when she's and she also, when she's hungry, she will eat.
Yeah.
So she will often just sit with us at dinner time because she ate something at 3:00 because that's when she was hungry. and she ate until she was no longer hungry. And she'll sit down with us. You can watch us eat, not eat with us because she's not hungry then.
Wow.
Again, those people are few and far between.
Yeah.
I think most of us humans eat for reasons other than hunger.
For sure.
We eat because of our schedule, and we eat because of emotions. We eat because of boredom. We eat out of habit. And when people keep saying you have to eat breakfast, I'm like, but some people aren't hungry then. Why are you forcing a meal upon them when they're not hungry?
Yeah.
And there are people in the morning, the stomach just isn't settled and they don't feel like eating.
Yeah.
But because that is the time to eat, they eat. And then lunchtime is the time to eat, and they eat that. And I think if people were more in tune to when they were hungry and when they're not hungry anymore,
Yeah.
then the problem of obesity would be less of a problem.
Yeah.
But again, we eat for so many other reasons other than hunger.
So speaking of hunger, I think a lot of, and it drives me crazy in the media. First of all, that they call them weight loss meds. I can't. Like, if I hear it one more time, I'm going to lose my effing mind. Like, sorry.
You'll survive. You'll survive.
These do other things.
You're rooting you on. You'll survive, though. You'll get it.
I know. I'll make it. But it drives me crazy when they call them that. And I don't foresee that changing for a long time. But regardless, a lot of people that have obesity have insulin resistance, right? Not everybody, but a lot, right? And because these medicines treat insulin resistance, which many diabetics have, or I guess all diabetics have?
Yes. Well, all type 2s.
All type 2s, yes. They also help like in that same area. So yeah, you do feel less hungry. But I tell you all, I say all the time, if it was just about eating less, right? If it's just about eating less and moving more, why would we want to take the most expensive medication that we can't even get, right? Like if it was just about the fact that we're less hungry. So clearly it's not just that we're eating less, like there is something else going on, right? Within the body when you take these and you have obesity. What is that?
Like I said, it changes the physiology between the gut and the pancreas and the liver and the brain. And so, all of those things that aren't working quite right when somebody has insulin resistance. How do I put this? Taking these medications, people notice a difference in their blood. For the people who have diabetes, notice a difference in their blood sugars before they've even lost weight. Right. So it's not all just the weight loss.
Yeah, totally. We had a doctor on the show before that was a bariatric surgeon. And he was mentioning that when they were doing bariatric surgery on people, so like gastric bypass, for example, that they were noticing that people with diabetes were literally walking out with their diabetes in remission, type 2, like when they would have the surgery. And so obviously it wasn't the weight that they had on them that was necessarily causing the type 2 diabetes. And that a lot of that had to do with GLP-1. Is that something you can expand on? We've only heard that from one other doctor.
So they did notice that when people were having either gastric sleeve surgery or gastric bypass surgery, that I don't like to say that they were in remission already, but they certainly needed a lot less medication. Some of them no medication at the time that they left the hospital. Like I said, before they lost an ounce of weight because they just had the surgery. So the thought is that because there's some neural hormonal connection between the intestines and the stomach and the pancreas. And so by having the surgery, that kind of reset those connections.
Yeah.
So that people were already making more insulin, less glucagon, just by having the surgery, even before they lost any weight.
Wow, that's crazy. I think it's just important, like, to understand. A lot of people, and this is something like I've been trying to think about as we've gone through our journey, and we've looked. Kat and I both. And this is something to think about. So, we both still are in large bodies, in big bodies. We're in small big bodies. we're in big bodies,
Yeah.
you know? Kat and I are both tall, and we were both, I would just say, genetically kind of larger humans.
I'm shrinking. I am shrinking. I am getting shorter.
Okay.
Just saying.
Yeah. And we are.
You
And
didn't believe me at first, but yes.
and I don't believe. And we are at the end, right,
Mhm.
of our hashtag Mounjaro journey. And what I mean is we're kind of in a weird maintenance, you
Okay.
know? And so that being said, Kat is incredibly fit and very muscular and exercises like crazy. She's lost
Good for you.
70 or 80 pounds. I've lost 110 pounds. I do not exercise like crazy, but I do walk and do resistance bands.
That's enough.
I'll take it. I do feel weak though. I'm about to level it up. And I want, because I think me getting a little, I need to get a little strong. I want to get stronger, but I'm
Yes.
okay. I just want to get stronger.
And you want to make sure that you maintain your muscle mass, especially as women get older, go through, when I know you're not there yet, but when you go to menopause, you're going to
I'm in
start.
Perry. Yeah.
Yeah, Kat's in Perry, and I are you in other menopause, Kat? No,
I'm in Perry.
I thought you were early menopause. No, well, why do you
No,
have?
I got Miss Perry.
So it's
Miss
your
Perry's my friend.
So
not your
just
menopause.
doing resistance training, muscle strength exercise is essential,
Yeah.
for women, and most women don't. A lot of women just do cardio, and that's just not enough.
No, I feel like too, like in I think in general, like I don't like gyms. So Kat was like, just do things. She taught me some things to do at home with
Yeah,
resistance.
just stuff at home. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, which I think is good. But I do think I need to. I'm feeling weak. I feel like I need to up level it. So
YouTube is full of exercise videos, full of programs, full of it is awesome. Even on Amazon, you want your Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
There.
I think that it's interesting, like as some people who have been here for a long time, like creating, I think a lot of people think that they're going to be in small bodies when they're done with this, and I would love to understand a little bit more about why that's not true. Like, I mean, it seems like, honestly, when I made a post about it recently, most people were like, oh yeah, I've lost like 50, 70, 80, and I've just stopped losing. They're not gaining, right? They're not gaining, and they're healthy in terms of their numbers and how they feel and their inflammation, all the things, but they're not losing anymore. So technically their BMI is technically still in the obese range. Why do you think that is? Or why?
I think there's a few things. I think that people, depending on the severity of the obesity and the chronicity, how many years they've had it, will reach a certain plateau, and there will still be some excess adiposity for a lot of people because because in the absence of these meds, even getting to that point, losing the 50 pounds is nearly impossible for many people, because the body decides, once you reach a certain weight, your body says, well, this is where you're supposed to be. And every time you try to lose weight, your body brings you back here. So when you are able to force it down, with assistance, your body's like, it's still trying to kind of bring you back up, but you're able to keep it steady. So I think that most people will reach a certain plateau. I think that's part of it. The other part is some of the excess weight is just skin and connective tissue, right? Because things get stretched out, and even if you tighten the muscles, there's still going to be some excess skin there. I mean, if you're really young and the amount of time that you've had the obesity is short, then you're able to shrink the skin too. But for people who have had obesity for 20, 30, 40 years, you're probably not going to shrink back. The skin's probably not going to shrink back.
Yeah, that story.
And people who have been carrying around excess weight do have generally more muscle mass than people who have never had excess weight, because you need to carry around, if you have somebody who's carrying around a backpack with 50 pounds all day, they're going to have more muscle than somebody who never carries anything, right? Because every step they've had to take has required more energy expenditure. They've been carrying stuff around. So part of that excess weight is also going to be some muscle that someone who'd never had obesity might not have.
Yeah. I saw one of the doctors, I don't know if you followed Dr. Galindo, but she's an obesity doctor and has obesity. And she actually posted that in like their Sermont trial, I think it was phase 3, that it took like they were looking at like over 3 years, and on average, people lost about 50 pounds over 3 years.
Mhm.
But I think that really people think I'm going to lose 100, I'm going to lose 200. They really think that's what's going to happen. And it sounds like on average, that's not the case at all. But 50 pounds is a lot of weight. I did hear like Jillian Michaels was running her mouth again on on an interview, and she was like, so big deal, they lose 45 pounds, and then why? Like, well, 45 pounds can be life-changing for people in terms of movement.
Absolutely. I
20
mean,
pounds.
from a health standpoint, a
Yeah.
5 to 10% weight loss can make a huge difference in diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, sleep apnea. You don't have to get down to quote unquote ideal body weight in order to be healthier. But many people struggle with just the 10%, right? So taking these medications to bring them down that 10%, maybe 20%, maybe 30% is huge. And I don't think that, and people need to have realistic expectations of these medications, just like the same way they need to have reasonable expectations for weight loss surgery.
For sure.
Because if someone thinks that they're going to get down to a size 0, after having had 150 extra pounds of adiposity, I think that's an unreasonable expectation. I think people need to look at this obesity treatment as a means to get healthier and stay healthier, and not to get to a certain size. Because, and I was thinking about this the other day. Up until the approval of these newer anti-obesity medications, wegovy and zepbound, there were so many people out there yelling about fat phobia. And so people when I would talk about helping people lose weight, I would be accused of forcing people to try to lose weight and being fat phobic. And I'm like, well, I'm fat phobic in the sense that I'm afraid that people with obesity will get sick, but I'm not afraid of the people. I'm not against the people. I'm against their disease. But now that we have actual treatments that work, all that's quieted down now, because I think people have realized, oh, we can do something about this. But I also think that people need to realize what the purpose is of treating. Right? And like I said, it's to avoid the complications of the disease. You may not eradicate it completely, but at least you are in a body that is healthier. In the same way, when people have diabetes and they're being, I can't make your diabetes go away, but I can keep you from getting, hopefully, heart disease, kidney disease, eye disease.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, right? Or fatty liver and all of that. I mean, I think that the reason that we think that way, and this is, it is our show, Kat, we're gonna say, is because of diet culture. Okay, so ultimately, right, and especially if you've had obesity for a very long time, like Kat and we've always been genetically larger, and had the weight. And even though both of us were quite active growing up, even then, everything was about the scale. And like recently, I've been asked, like, Kim, you really should find places to speak and talk about this, right? And I'm like, but I'm nobody. Like, I'm not a big person that got skinny. I'm just a marketer that takes this and has a pot. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they were like, no, like the story is important, right? And so I was trying to think of like how to talk about it. And ultimately, at a very young age, I was dieting, right? So at a very young age, I was trying to figure out how to make a rice cake taste good so that I could sleep when I was 8 on Weight Watchers and stay within my points and lose weight so that I could be in a smaller body like my friends and not be made fun of and all of those different things. And everything was about numbers, and everything was about the scale, and everything was about the size. And that was like a standard of not health, but beauty, a standard of acceptance in this society, right? And what I've learned on this journey is that that's all horseshit. What actually matters is your blood work. What actually matters is how you feel in your skin and being able to move your body without pain, right? But I didn't think that in the beginning. And you'll see when people come into the community and they're on their journey, you see that it's weigh-in day, it's shot day, And they think that way because that is what everybody has told them is the way. The weight is the problem, right? Not the health, but ultimately it actually is the health. And I think a lot of times, like, especially if with body positivity, and this is probably not popular with anybody that's big into body positivity, but I will tell you, body positivity is wonderful in terms of the movement and how that works. But it was created, in my opinion, for us to be able to survive so that we wouldn't hate ourselves, so that we could look at ourselves and try to love ourselves and try to find something to understand that our life was worth living regardless of the size of the body that we couldn't control, you know? And I think that what we have to understand is that's all fine and dandy, but at some point you're going to hit a point with that big body and it's going to hurt. And you're going to hit a point where you go to the doctors and you have diabetes or pre-diabetes or whatever it may be. Your knees are going to hurt. Your arthritis is bad, all those different things, you know? And I think that what actually matters, if we could just throw all that shit away, you know, and just focus on the fact that you want to be in a healthier, the healthiest you can be, right? Just the healthiest you can be, not the healthiest what society thinks you should be or the size that you should be in. And I'm still going through this too. There's a lot of mental stuff in this. And I would say this is more of a mental journey than it is a physical one. The physical
on the mental part,
you know what I mean? Like the physical part, because it's fixing the thing, right? And it kind of fixes the thing and your weight kind of falls off, but you got to figure out, all right, what do I do now? What do I choose to eat? How do I choose to move? You know, how do I choose to live? You know, it's a completely different lifestyle change. You know, I hate using that. I hate saying lifestyle change and I hate saying diets and I hate saying build healthy habits, and because it's so diet culture. So like I'm trying to find new words. Because and mostly because all of these things are very associated with people who've gone through this. And this has been a very traumatic experience to exist in a large body the majority of your life in this society.
Hey, Plus Siders, we're so glad that you were able to tune in for part 1 of the episode. Part 2 will be posted next week. We look forward to seeing you then. Have a great week. And remember, you're not alone. It's not your fault.
20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise. That's the power of GLP-1s through Ro. Ro helps find the medication that's right for you, based on cost, availability, and your weight loss goals. Losing weight with GLP-1s is possible through Ro.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.